everybody. How are you today?
Great.
Good. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate you guys getting down here. There's good turnout for the first day, first session of the morning, so that either means you guys are really interested in what I have to talk about, or I'm the only presentation going on right now. So hopefully. So thanks for having me, Nowak team. Happy to be working with Nowak. I am the Eastern U.S. sales manager for DGShape. So any dealer on the eastern half of the U.S., I would be working with directly. A little bit of my background. I come from a family laboratory. My family owned a lab for 40 years in the New Haven, Connecticut area. So I grew up, sorry?
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry.
And after that 40 years, my father sold the company, but after high school, I grew up as a kid working in the model and die department through middle school, through high school, learning, I guess as we call it now, the analog way of the dental laboratory, learning the importance of metal finishing and waxing and really working through all those departments. So I spent 12 years in the laboratory before leaving the lab for an opportunity to become an installation and training specialist for CAD/CAM solutions. So that's scanning, designing, milling, all of the above. At that point, I became the manager of that team, and after a few years transitioned over to here with Roland DGShape out of the US to manage the eastern half of the US. So unique backgrounds. I've kind of sat in all different positions with different companies in the laboratory, out of the laboratory. So I think it's really what helps me be successful, helping end users and customers and dealers be successful with our equipment. So today we're going to talk about what your tools can do for you. So we're going to do a dive into different tooling, how they're made, why some of these tools are better than other tools, how they're actually created, difference between grinding and milling processes, some specialty tools. So we're going to go down a bunch of different avenues. We're going to close it out with a quick, some of you may be Millbox users already, just having you understand where you can identify the proper tool slots if you decide to utilize some of these specialty tools or new tools that we talk about today. So we're going to open it up here. I always like to ask that, if you guys have questions, I prefer these to be open dialogue. If we're on a slide and you guys have a question about a tool type, let's cover it on that slide. If you guys have questions, stop me, put your hand up. I think it's more productive for everyone if we kind of go through this, together as a conversation rather than a lecture, so to speak. So feel free to jump in at any time. Okay, so key takeaways for today. Understanding the differences between tool types. All right, we're going to talk about diamond coated tools, carbide tools, what the differences are, and some new tools that we've just released last year. Are you using the proper tools for the best result? We're going to jump into some specialty tooling. It's very important to make sure you have the proper tools, whether they're flat end tools, single flute tools, dual fluted tools, and what their purposes are. So hopefully you walk away with a better understanding. I look at the tools in a mill kind of like the technicians in a lab. You can walk through a lab and everybody in the lab has their own job that they're used for. And all of those jobs come together to get that restoration out the door. I think of the tools as the same kind of process where each tool has a specific job. If one of those tools is bad or not doing their job correctly, it's going to affect the rest of the process. So that's kind of how I view tooling as a whole. We're also going to talk about new strategy development. Some of you may be familiar with our new 53 DC. So we have some exciting releases here as far as tooling and strategy that we're going to be talking about through the weekend. You can find information in our ballroom, at our booth, at the Nowak booths through their team. But we're going to be talking about that in detail. The new Cajun Cutter Ultra that we've worked directly with Nowak to co-brand together. So that's going to be a top-of-the-line milling burr for your zirconia restorations. So if you have any questions about that or are interested in pricing, you can visit the Nowak booth and find out about their show promotion. We're going to talk about those tools. Is it time for you to update your cam? We could talk about tools. You could buy the tools, but if your cam isn't up to date, you may not be able to implement that tooling. So making sure that you're up to date with those annual fees through Millbox or Hyperdent, whoever it might be, it's important to understand that having those updates is key to material development, strategy developments, which are ultimately going to give you new revenue streams and faster production. So it's kind of like a Band-Aid everybody has to pull off every year. You don't want to pay that fee because your software is already working. But to stay on the cutting edge and keep your production productive, it's important that you stay up to date. And at the end, we're going to close out with, I'm going to open up Millbox and show you guys exactly how to find your tool slots if you do make changes to the different tool types or tool sets you're using. So that way when you go back to the lab and you order a new tool here at the show, you're going to know how to confirm exactly the proper location. So that's our key takeaways for today. So the first thing we're going to talk about is grinding versus milling. Who here has a DGShape or Roland mill today? Okay, so a good amount of you. We have two different types of mill. We have dry mill and wet mill. Who has a dry mill? Wet mill from us? One? Okay. So we're going to talk about the difference between grinding and milling. So milling would be our dry workflow. It's going to utilize fluted tools to remove material. So it's going to be those cutting edges, just like a drill bit in your screw gun at home would look, right? So it's going to make passes. It's typically a dual fluted tool that's going to remove zirconia material pass after pass. Those tools, a milling process and the CNC process, is best used for creating smooth surfaces and detailed interlocking areas. So it's going to be more precise, utilizing fifth axes to give you the best detail overall. That tool can be coated or uncoated. So you can have a diamond coated burr or you can have a carbide tool. Each one of those tools has different jobs and they are used for cutting different materials. We will typically see diamond coated only used on zirconia, which you're all probably familiar with already. And the carbide tools, which are uncoated, are a cheaper tool. They'd be used on plastic, PMMA, acrylic type materials, alternative materials like Trilor, Peak, Pectin. Those are more affordable tools, but they do not last as long. Okay? Carbide tools can be used on zirconia, even though they're not coated. You should really only expect 7 to 8 hours of use on those tools when milled from zirconia. Okay? Grinding tools. Grinding tools are utilized for wet milling processes to remove harder materials that are friable. Friable, meaning fracturable, overheating, cracking. So we're using those materials in conjunction with a coolant to make sure the material stays cool and a lubricant is provided to those blocks as they're milled. Those tools are a carbide tool, which are then coated in a binder and then coated in a diamond coating. So you can see here in these pictures down by the bottom, that is the diamond coating for a wet grinding tool, and the binder is keeping that material attached to the tool itself. The diamond coating, that grit that you're seeing there, is always made of a material that's going to be harder than the material it's cutting. It's going to be harder than that material to provide longer wear, longer use, and as those tools are used, pieces of that tooling as they become worn are going to break off, which then expose additional pieces, the layer behind that diamond coating, giving it a new sharp edge again. Think of it like taking a rock and chipping it away into an arrowhead, right? So same process. You have that coating that, let's call it a stone, that grit, and the top layer will fracture off, exposing new sharp edges. The best process for materials that would be friable, as I already mentioned, which would be fracturable, glass, ceramics, and those materials. Grinding is the best procedure. Available grinding tool options we have today for our 42W. We have the ZGB2 tool. ZGB2 is our high quality tool. So we can see here in this top image, it is a smaller grain of grit, okay? So it's going to mill a sharper margin, better detail in the cavity, smoother surface quality, and better anatomical detail in the occlusion of the crown. It's great, it's what we see most people using with our 42W. It's the most popular tool for sure. The difference between that and the ZGB, which we'll talk about next, is time of milling. Because it's a finer grit tool, it doesn't take as large of bites of the material as it passes over it. So it is going to take slightly longer to mill a crown, let's call it a glass ceramic, with our high quality tool than it would be our standard quality, our ZGB. So that's the trade-off. Higher quality, slightly longer time. Longer time, we're talking about roughly 8 minutes difference between those two tool types. The next tool is going to be our ZGB tool, which is our coarse tool, pictured earlier in the last slide. It's going to be a coarser grit. It's going to mill slightly faster. Quality is comparable to any other wet mill you're going to see in the market. You're not going to notice surface striations. You're not going to get poor quality margins. but you're going to be able to cut crowns slightly faster. So roughly 8 minutes faster. You have to decide in your production, is 8 minutes worth of quality, or are you trying to save that 8 minutes of time? In most cases, people prefer the quality, whether you're an in-house lab, a clinician, or a lab owner. Last but not least, with the 42, this falls into the 42. It's not technically a grinding procedure, but the ZTB tool. ZTB tools are our titanium burr, which is going to be used to cut custom titanium abutments out of the 42W. So if you have a 42W or are considering one, you would be able to purchase an attachment for a variety of implant part lines that you would be able to mill custom, single unit custom titanium abutments within the 42. That tool is going to look like your carbide tool, but it would be utilized for wet milling. Okay. Any questions on wet tooling so far, or what I've talked about? So an important thing to note when you're using a 42W is the material selections that you have available. Depending on the tool type you are choosing, you are going to see different lists of materials that are available. Some of these materials are harder than others, so it would require you to use that coarser grit tool. So it's important when you make that selection to confirm that you are seeing your tool, your material type for the tool you've selected. If you do not see your material, it's best to confirm with your support entity, whoever it is, contacting us directly and finding out if you're using the right tool for the right material, okay? If you do not do that, if you choose ZGB tool and, if you choose the high quality burr and choose a material from the standard list or the fast milling list, you could burn out your tool faster, you're gonna break your block, you're gonna lose a tool and the block itself. So the key thing with new users with the 42W is making sure they're selecting the right tool with the right material, okay? So let's talk about specialty grinding tools for the 42W. We have a short 2.5 millimeter tool. So this is an optional tool. When I talk about specialty tools, these are not things that are required for you to have, but it would be optional for you. So this 2.5 millimeter tool, as you can see here, with this strategy, it's going to remove all of the material that's not needed to create your crown, to create that restoration, right off the bat. The standard quality of milling is going to pass over back and forth layer by layer over the material. So the job of this tool is to preserve the life of all of your other tools. So it's up to you whether you use it or not. If you want to change your other 3 tools less often, this is a great option to use. If you're okay with the ROI that you're getting on your current tools, and you're okay to change them every week, few weeks, depending on how many crowns you're actually milling, this is an optional tool for you. Next is the most important tool for the ZGB2 line. It's going to be our 75D tool. So our largest tool that does the bulk of the work is the 2.5 millimeter grinding tool. And we went from that tool, 2.5 down to 1 millimeters. It's a pretty big gap in between. So early on, we found that with bridges, we were missing the tool sizing for the interproximal area to get the detail that we wanted to see. So the 75D tool was created for interproximal milling. Also, that is used for screw access channels to be able to fit inside those screw access channels. So there's benefits there. And the most important part to the ZGB2 75D tool is cavity milling for anything that's, premolar, bicuspid, or anterior region. Those preps typically being smaller. If we go in to rough that the prep area with a 2.5 millimeter tool, the tool in most cases can be almost the same size as the cavity, which is going to prevent coolant from getting to the tip of the tool, which is then going to burn out the tip of the tool. Okay, so ZGB2, if you intend on doing anything in the anterior region, premolar or bicuspid, having this in your arsenal for your 42W wet mill is the best option. Any questions at all about wet milling? Okay, dry milling. This is probably the most important part, what everybody's here to hear about. ZDB tools, which would be diamond coated tooling. Diamond coated tools are used on predominantly zirconia. Depending on the quality of tool that you have, you can be seeing anywhere from 20 to 30 hours up to 80 or 100 hours of tool life. okay? High quality, top shelf milling burrs, you're gonna pay more, you're gonna be changing tools less, you're gonna be receiving better milling quality, and the life can be upwards of 80 to 100 hours. It's not uncommon for us to see in our devices someone getting up to 120 hours of tool life out of their ZDB tools. Now that can vary. So these are our ZDB tools here. They have a coating on them which protects them against heat abrasion for zirconia milling. There are some instances for materials like Trilor where you could use diamond coated tools on that material as well, but you would not see that 50, 80, 100 hour tool life. Okay, so there's trade-offs there for using it on alternative materials. ZDB tools can be spray coated with diamond coating, which would be considered a lower tier tool, or CVD, which is chemical vapor disposition process, which that bare tool is put into a chamber and then vapor grows that diamond coating on it. So it's an overall higher quality tool. They cost more because it takes longer to make, and that process is more expensive to go through than just spraying it on with, let's call it not a spray can, but the spray over process. So that's our ZDB tooling there. I will point out, as I mentioned before, we do have the new Cajun Cutter Premium available through Nowak. So if you're using a medium to low quality tool today, doing more changes, or buying a high quality tool from somewhere else, the Nowak team does have a great promotion at their booth. The Cajun Cutter that they are offering, their premium tool, is the top shelf premier tool, comparable to any other top shelf tool that's available today for our devices. So it leaves nothing, it's nothing short of any other tool that's popular in the market today. Carbide tools, those can be used on PMMA, wax acrylics, Peak, Pectin, Trilor. That's a bare metal tool, and tool life will really vary depending on the material you're cutting. Something like a Trilor, great material for substructure, some of you may be familiar with it, is fiber reinforced. So as that carbide tool cuts those fibers, we are generating more heat. So you may see tool life expectancy on those types of materials around 15 hours. But if you're using PMMA or acrylics, you can see upwards of 30 or 40 hours on those tools. So ZCB are carbide tools. Nowak also offers that tooling as well. ZPB tooling. How many people here with one of our devices are milling a lot of PMMA, some acrylic, thermoplastics? Okay, ZPB, are you guys using it? Anybody using it here?
We got it, haven't done the tooling yet.
Okay, so a little bit about the ZPB. We came out with this tooling the end of this past summer in 2022. This is your best tooling option for PMMA, acrylic, or thermoplastics, and I'll tell you why. When we're milling PMMA and acrylics, what's the main thing about those pucks compared to zirconia? They're typically larger, right? They're much thicker pucks, 25s, 30s. Reach is important. When we have those undercut areas for plastic, we need every millimeter of tool length possible to be able to reach that detailed undercut. So from ZCB, which people are typically using, probably what you're using now, we have added a coating to protect it against heat abrasion. It's not a diamond coating like used on zirconia. It is a different type of coating, but it extends the sharpness of the tool itself to protect it from heat abrasion on plastics or acrylics. In addition, the tool shank is textured. So it has a grittier surface, which is going to allow the collet of the mill to grip on that tool and prevent any slipping whatsoever. And last but not least is an extra 5 millimeters of length for you to reach top bottom, an additional 5, which gives you 10 additional millimeters of reach on that restoration itself. To jump ahead a little bit when we talk about the 53 and its capabilities, the 53, those of you who have our devices are familiar with the tool holder itself, that little silver donut that holds the tool. We have also in that machine decreased the thickness of that holder, which is going to allow for an additional 3 on top of this 5 of reach for the tool. So we're looking at these little things, trying to find little spots here and there, how we can make the machines that we have better through tooling, through strategy, all of the above. So ZPB, if you're milling these types of materials, PMMA, acrylic, or thermoplastic, these are the best tool for you. Any questions?
There's been times where I've had to use a 30 millimeter puck of zirconia, and it'd be great to have a longer length tool.
All right, good. That's actually a really good thing to bring up. ZPB is capable of milling zirconia. It is cheaper than a diamond coated tool for zirconia, those tools. They're not going to last as long on zirconia. That coating is not enough to protect it against the zirconia. It's better for plastics and acrylics. So can you use it? Yes, you can. But you shouldn't expect 50 or 80 hours out of that tooling. You can use it. We're not going to promote it as a zirconia tool because the ends of the spectrum are so different. We're recommending this tool for 80 hours of life on these materials. So if we're only seeing, let's say, 15 or 20 hours of life, those are quite different. Now you're guessing in between 20 and 80, when is your tool going to go bad? So if you have a set of ZPB that you want to use specifically on zirconia, and that's important, you could absolutely buy a set and use them on zirconia. Make sense? Questions at all?
How do you know? I mean, we know our burrs are worn out by the time we get chipping and everything else. Is there another way to check that? Because it's so variable across so many materials.
It is, because every zirconia is going to be a different hardness. You could use something more translucent for your anterior cases, something harder, monolithic for your posterior, and those materials will vary. They're more delicate on the machine or more rough on the machine. So is there a way other than just finding that sweet spot on those materials? Not really. You could look at them under a microscope and check the edges for any sort of breakdown of the coating whatsoever as an indication. That would be a good question for some tooling companies.
The hours on it?
Yeah, I mean, in the V panel, you're going to track the hours. So.
Well,
That's what we did, is we tracked the hours and averaged it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are sometimes you get a bad mill, an error, or whatever, and you want to make sure your tool's okay. That it's not.
In that situation, like to verify, the only thing you'd have an option to do is check it under a mic. Yeah.
The larger burrs, I find that one thing is sound. If the mill starts to sound louder than usual, it's starting to dull. Number two is the way it's cutting the puck. If I see that it's starting to shred, it's not cutting as clean, I already know it's starting to reach the end of its life. Smaller burrs are harder to find because it's not cutting as aggressively, but those between the 3 and the 2 millimeter, even the 1, I can tell by the sound of it if it's about to die. And
I always check whenever I'm like troubleshooting anything. It's that initial pass. I call it the fingerprint. When it makes those certain passes and you see that spiral, I call it the fingerprinting process. I watch that outer edge and I check for chipping, right? If I see a smooth, clean line on that first step, your tooling should be good. It's not to say at the end of that crown it's going to expire, but you know where you're at that point. Okay, so any questions here at all?
What part do you recommend for composite resin?
Can you tell me a brand that you'd be in block form or in puck form? That I would suggest our HY tool, which I didn't talk about here. It's our hybrid tool. It has a special coating on it for things like Vita and Nemic to be milled dry, or a shofu material like you're talking about. Those tools are more expensive. They're about $199 a piece. So for a set, you're in for about $600. We don't sell a lot of them here in the U.S. Our team in Europe does see more, inlay onlay kind of stuff over there in Europe. So they do sell the most HY tooling. We do have it. It's optional. It's in the CAM software, so you could purchase those for that material.
HY?
HY tool. So yeah, at the end of the tool, it would say HY. But whoever you buy through, you can reach out to them, or my cards, everybody are out back by the water. So if you need to grab one and you have a question about a part number, you could certainly grab one from them back. Let's talk about specialty tools and dry milling. First tools we're going to talk about are the PT tools. Who's using PT tools today in their workflow? Awesome. So PT1, PT2. These are flat end milling burrs that are going to be utilized for any restoration that has a flat surface or implant sites utilizing tie bases. Okay? So these flat tools, which are smaller, are going to be able to reach certain areas of implant sites and give you better detailed milling, as well as flat surface milling. A round tool can mill a pretty flat surface, but by using that bullnose tool, you're going to get better detail in flat surface areas. So PT1, PT2 tools are available for use in our 51, 52, and new 53 series. So it's important. I believe these tools began being used in the Millbox software late 2019. So if you're running a Millbox version that's older than that, you may not have these as an option. So again, that's another reason why it's important to stay up to date on the milling strategies so you can get the best out of your restorations. I don't know if anybody's ever had a situation where you mill an implant case, screw retain case, go to put a tie base in, and it's a poor fit, right? Back to the drawing board. PT tools are going to help eliminate those types of problems. Okay. ZRB 100D. ZRB 100D is a 2mm flat end tool, and it's going to be used for our TRK denture kits. Some of you may be familiar with our denture kits. We do have a system for our mills where you take a silicone mold, you can pour a pourable acrylic into it and essentially make your own denture puck. All right. We have a handful of labs in my territory that are using it today. They love the process. They're milling flippers, all kinds of different things. So that again is a flat end tool, and that tool would be used for the roughing procedure to bring down the milling time for those types of cases. Okay. ZRB 150D. That is a 3mm roughing tool that is dual fluted. That would be utilized on materials like plastic, thermoplastic, and acrylics, and could be used in our 52 or 53 series. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. So ZRB again would be utilized in that 2019 version of software for Millbox or newer. And the two fluted tool is going to create more heat overall. Wouldn't be ideal for cutting plastics quickly. So it's going to save time from your 2mm round tool, but we're looking at an additional 10 to 15% time savings if you were just using your 2mm round tool. Now we step up to our very productive tools, the RSB 150D. Also a 3mm tool used on the same materials. The difference between these two tools is the amount of flutes it has. This is where it gets kind of complicated to explain. So follow me, ask questions as you have them. This is a single fluted tool. When strategies are developed for tooling with 2 flutes or single flutes, the benefits are as follows. A single flute is going to make a pass over the material and take a bite out of it. So that flute, that empty space in the tool where the cutting edge is, where it's going to grab and cut, we are going to be able to take an 85 to 90% bite of material with a single fluted tool. So for 3mm, we're going to really take almost a full 3mm bite of the material itself, which is going to drastically reduce our roughing. A dual fluted tool, now we have 2 flutes, 2 empty spaces. Now with 2 flutes, we have to cut that in half. So we're already at from 3, cut it in half down to 1.5. Now if we're taking a 80-85% bite of that, that's a significantly smaller bite than what we'd be able to achieve with a single fluted tool. It's tough to explain. I'm doing my best. Does that make sense? Really, that single flute is essentially a bigger mouth, right? And then we have 2 small mouths. 2 small mouths are going to have 2 blades passing over the material, which could generate more heat. PMMAs, acrylics, or thermoplastics are going to have a melting point, right? So with the dual flutes, we're also generating more heat. So if you want to mill PMMA, acrylic, or thermoplastics quickly, your best option today is the RSB 150D tool. Okay. The next tool we're going to talk about, and that tool is here. I actually have one here that I was going to pass around just so you guys could see what that looks like compared to something you might be using now, like a 2mm tool. It's significantly larger. ZRB 200D is a 4mm tool that was released with the 53 DC. This tool can only be used in the 53 DC. So if you have a 52, don't order it, throw it in, and think it's going to work. The reason it's only used in the 53 DC is because that new spindle we have in this machine has 3 times the gripping force in the collet to the tool. As we get larger in tooling and have larger blades, we're creating more friction on that tooling surface, which is going to require more grip to the tool. If you tried to run this tool in the 52, you would likely see slipping in the tool to the collet. So not ideal. The new 4mm tool should only be used in the 53 DC. I will point out the ZRB 200D is a dual fluted tool. This is going to be faster than your 2mm, but to be completely honest with you, it is not as fast as the RSB 150D. Okay, that big mouth that's taking those bites is going to outcut this tool. This tool comes with the 53 DC, and it's going to extend the life of the rest of the tools you're using. It's going to save you about 10% of time compared to just a 2mm on PMMA, but it is not as fast as the RSB 150D. So if you want PMMA acrylic fast, RSB 150D is the way to go today. And here's the 4mm tool. Looks like something pulled off of an oil rig. It's quite impressive to see. Yeah.
I've heard some chatter of some people using the spindle from the 53 and the 52.
So there is a conversion that can be done. There is a new version of spindle that came out for the 52 series mill. It can only be applied to the 52D, not the DCI currently. So it has some different bearings in it. It's going to be a little more robust, a little more durable. So that conversion is possible for somebody who already has it. So yes, there is a new spindle that would be available. I want to be clear that that new spindle doesn't give you more power. It's not a horsepower upgrade. It's strictly the internal components, and the collet area itself is more robust. So that could be done. And if you were interested in that, you could talk to your dealer about it.
Toolpath wise, for the 4mm tool, we've messed around with the 53 and Hyperdent mill box. It doesn't seem, but we've been told that there's no tool paths really within Hyperdent right now that are like preset for the 4mm. Or not true?
Hyperdent, so we don't own a cam company. We're open as we are with tools, materials, whatever it is. So different cam companies will be at different points of developing strategies. So that may be true. It shouldn't be hard for them to implement if you request it from them. I mean, you're using both, so I'm not sure if you're deciding between the two or you just use both in your production. Right.
Mills, so we kind of switch and see what works better kind
Right.
of situation.
But again, I mean, if you have a 53 already,
Yes.
and you're looking to mill these materials today,
That's what
this
we're using
is the
now,
way to
so.
go. Yeah. We'll talk more about that strategy here in a few. So any questions about specialty tools for these
The 4mm tool only a carbide?
It does have the same type of coating that the ZPB tools have on it. So it's not a bare carbide, no, it does have a coating on it. And you can see as you pass it around that there is, the end of the tool does look a little darker. We had another one?
Yeah. When we've used the RSB 150D, or we've tried to adjust some of the strategies, so we're using it for roughing 3mm out of PMMA for like 2 supported restorations rather than dentures and stuff like that. And our milling hasn't been quite as clean. Is that as a result of something specific?
So you were using this on zirconia, you're saying?
PMMA.
PMMA.
Is that, I mean, there might just be some refining of the strategies?
Yeah.
We've just noticed it's been much harder to mill with that. And it may be something I need to talk with Sim Systems about.
That would be my recommendation right off the bat, but we'll get more into capabilities with this here shortly. Any other questions before we move on?
I'm sorry, you said you were selling a smaller collar now for the tools?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And that would be usable in the 52 or 51 series as well. It's not only compatible with the 53.
How about 51?
That's not a problem. Bigger would be a problem, smaller is not an issue. Okay, so now really quickly we're going to talk about the 53 itself. Some of you, it appears you already have it, so that's great. We appreciate your business. As I mentioned already, one of the big differences between this machine and the older models is going to be that new spindle. It's going to have 3 times the gripping force to that tool, which is going to allow us to evolve this machine. Where it sits today is farther ahead than where it was when it was released in September. By the end of Q2, I expect we're going to have new strategies for other materials coming out. So as a company, we're not looking to launch a mill and then let it sit idle for 3 years and wait for the next model. We're going to continue to explore different options to make things more productive, more efficient, utilize different materials. So this device, if you were to have one today, it's going to continue to evolve. We're going to grow into this machine, which means our customers are going to grow into this. So we're excited about this, and we're already testing various new strategies with tools you've never seen before, which are not currently being used in the dental market. So we're excited to see with what comes over the next few quarters. 4mm tool, as I mentioned already, it does save a little bit of time, but it's going to extend the tool life of your carbide or ZPB tools. 3mm tools, the 3mm cutting strategy with RSB 150D on PMMA and acrylics can save you anywhere from 30 to 40% on your milling times. Okay. We have a new strategy, a new version of Millbox came out yesterday, and we have new strategies that are boosted that we've been testing over the past 3 months that are more aggressive in the X and Y and the Z to take bigger bites of material, which will drop your times down by anywhere from 30 to 40%. We're going to get more into that. I'm going to show you some milling times coming up. The 53, if anybody has a DCI, one of the complaints that we heard from the customers was our adapters, the 26 adapters that Millbox could track, wasn't enough for them. They were looking for another solution. So this device, with our partners in Millbox, we are now able to track up to 100 of those adapters. So you can essentially have a library of your materials, whether it's zirconias, acrylics, PMMA, where you're constantly swapping them in and out. We moved away from an alphabetical numbering system to a numbering system, which allows us to go higher. Okay. Faster puck changes. So one of the biggest changes with this machine is we moved that changer, which was a T-axis, up, down, left, right, to a lift. So now it's only moving one direction, which is going to make it more reliable, and it's going to make those puck changes faster. We've cut down the puck changes by over 50%. So we're looking at 1 minute for a puck swap, where the DCIs were just over 2 minutes. So time savings. Time savings, whether it's minutes over a week and a month and a year, add up, which means more production, more crowns getting out the door, more restorations done. So again, we're developing these things to be more efficient and finding small ways to make them better. In addition, a new firmware was released a week or two ago that actually increased the speed of the tool pickup and replacement by over 50%. So we are saving, reports from our test partner is they're saving now about 7 minutes per job due to this changer speed increase and the tool speed swap increase. So that's 7 minutes per job that we're saving now. Again, 20 milling jobs a day, 7 minutes per job, that adds up pretty quickly over a week and a month, which, you know, will boost your revenue. We've made this more efficient as well with cleaning procedures. So at the end of a zirconia job or any job, you have options within the vPanel software to choose a fast cleaning procedure, standard, or detailed. It's going to run a grid pattern over the milled restoration on both sides before it transfers it back into the changer to make sure we're not getting debris inside that portion of the machine. It's also going to ensure that when you pull the puck out, it's not snowing zirconia all over the countertop. Sorry. Keeping your work area cleaner, less mess. We've also added an air blow feature to the front of the machine that's going to blow intermittently to force all that debris to the back of the mill and out through the evacuation device. Sorry guys, got a tickle in my throat. Let's see. Built-in web camera is a new popular feature that people like. We have DGShape Cloud or DGShape Insights, which is a free application you can sign up for through vPanel. You are able to watch your restoration milled live from anywhere you can log in. So your computer at home, your smart device, whatever it might be. So that's a neat feature as well. In the future, we're going to develop that web camera to function a lot like a home security system where it detects an incident and it saves that portion of the milling job, right? So when you do have an issue, we're actually able to go back and check that feature out. That's something that's coming. It's not available today, but it's something we're building into the cloud software. And as I mentioned, the DGShape Insight or Cloud, it's a performance software. Link here if you want to go to our YouTube page. It's better than taking a picture of this link. DGShape in YouTube. We have a variety of videos and playlists. There's about a 20-minute video that's going to show you how to navigate that free software. What it's going to allow you to do is generate reports. It's going to track your thickness of pucks you're using, your shades of puck you're using most often, your tool life, and you can generate these reports to see at the end of the week or the month, what did we use, what do we need to inventory, what do we need to reorder. So that's a free add-on that's currently available through our site. In the very near future, we are going to have a much more robust version of this software. That would be something that's subscription based, very small fee, but it's going to give you lab management capabilities as well. So that's something in a few months we're excited to release. Any questions here about the 53? No? All right, so the 53. These are some cases with that 4 millimeter, let's call it stock strategy that we saw with plastics. So these were our milling times on these cases, which is significantly faster than the 52 series because of that 4 millimeter. But with the capabilities of this machine, we want to push it farther, faster, and make it more efficient. So when we first received the machine in September with the stock strategies from Japan, this is what we were looking at for milling times. Not bad times. This is a 30 to 40 minute improvement based off of the 52. So we're already saving time. But as I mentioned, we want to develop this machine. We want to grow into this machine to make it better for you. So through development and testing with SIM and some lab partners who are our testing sites, we have slowly increased these feeds and speeds with that RSB 150D tool to bring these times down to what we're seeing today. The first job here is denture pucks milled out of PMMA. We loaded this at night with the new, I call it boosted strategy, the more aggressive strategy. And we were able to load it with six pucks. All of these jobs were completed in 6 hours and 49 minutes, which means we're milling denture bases in just over 1 hour at this point. In many cases for lower dentures, we are hitting that 50 to 55 minute time frame, which is significantly faster than where we were with the 52 just 6 months ago. VisiClear RPDs, if this is a workflow that you're doing, we are able to mill 2 flexible RPD frames in just 1 hour and 25 minutes. In that previous slide, a job like this was twice as long. We took off 1 hour of milling time, which is significant with this new strategy in the RSB 150D tool. And then we have a 4 millimeter RPD frame here as well. Some other things that I'll mention, I talked about the denture base in around 1 hour. We are able to mill a full arch of denture teeth. If you're placing those teeth in an appropriately sized puck, that means if the tallest tooth is 12 millimeters, we're not putting it in a 20. If we're using a 12 or 14 millimeter puck, we're able to mill that full arch of denture teeth in 30 minutes. So 1 hour denture base, 30 minute set of teeth. Hour and 30 minutes, we have a fully digital denture that you can cut out and begin assembling. Okay. Any questions here about milling times? Night guards. We're also milling night guards. We've got about 35, 36 minutes for night guards at this point, which is really quick. What other restorations? Unilaterals. So unilateral frames, we are seeing those milled in about 30 minutes. Okay. So your question might be, what do I need to do to boost my production for these workflows? The first thing you're going to need to really take advantage is a 53. You're also going to need that RSB 150D tool, and you're going to have to choose whether you're going to use carbides or the new ZPB tooling. The next step is to make sure you're up to date. To utilize this new strategy, you guys having a 53, you obviously have a newer version of Millbox to have that machine profile. You'd be able to upgrade to this today. But if you're 2 years behind, it's important to get caught up, so that way you're going to utilize the latest and greatest strategies. The new version that can be downloaded is 8.2.1. That would be the newest version of Millbox software utilizing this strategy. Any questions on what you need to be more productive with PMMAs or acrylics? Anything like that? So here's a look at some tooling. I put this up here just as a comparison. This is our 2 millimeter ball end tool that's most commonly used in our machines. This is that 3 millimeter tool. This is our 4 millimeter dual fluted tool. And then these are some other new tooling options that we're currently exploring. So we have this new strategy that's released here at Chicago for these workflows, but we already have 2 other strategies in place that are being developed now as we speak. So it's my hope through hopefully by the end of Q2, we have a new version of the PMMA and acrylic milling strategy with a new tool. And we also have a zirconia strategy, which is going to utilize larger tooling for faster milling. So, you know, we're excited about it. This is a machine we're going to grow into. It's going to make your productions faster. And, you know, we hope that you choose us when you're looking for a milling solution. Any questions? Real quick, I'll let you guys know about our promos that we have right now. If anybody's looking for a mill, we have our 52 series, the DCI or the 52. DCI is currently promoted at a very attractive price point of $31,995. It's going to include a free BOFA suction unit. That's a $2,000 value. Our 52D is promoted at $23,995 with that free BOFA unit. We're also running a warranty promotion. So, does anybody have extended warranties on their Roland or DGShape devices? You do? So it's we're one of the only manufacturers that really offers this, and we will allow you to purchase extended warranty up to 5 years. Your mill comes with 2 once you register it. Key is you got to register. If you don't register, that second year is not activated. So we have a promo right now where if you buy 2 years of extended warranty, so that would be your 3rd and 4th year, we would give you your 5th for free. So right now, you know, it's a great time to really insure your devices in your production, which means you're going to get a free spindle during each year, should it fail. It's going to cover technicians' travel. It's going to cover the parts needed to repair your devices. So, you know, if you're financing something, adding an extra $4,000 or $5,000 to have 5 years of full coverage is a really great option. Okay, so we have that. We always bundle our equipment. If you're looking for wet and dry production, we bundle those mills together and give you a significant discount. We're also bundling our mills with the printer as well, our 3D printer. So really whatever you're looking to do, we like to find ways to bundle things and save you guys money. So our big promotions right now are going to be the BOFA unit included with the purchase of a dry mill. And we also have a promotion for the 42W where you would get a starter kit for Haas Bio's new Amber Direct material. So we'd give you 2 boxes of that material, polishing, and a set of tools to get you up and running with those workflows. So if you have any questions about promotions, you could certainly talk to Matt or anybody from the Nowak team to get more information on that. Any other questions, comments, anything you guys are curious about? No? Well, I thank you guys for coming down, you know, getting up, I guess, early and coming down and joining us today. So if you have any questions, come by our ballroom today. We'll have the booth tomorrow down in the basement. So we appreciate you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.